Ram, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Radha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchan Gourangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Pri Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chev Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudire. Lo Shri Radhe Guru Kananda Bhagwan ki Jai. Bhagavatam ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Tarun, and we have Nandajit. So, cool. Everyone had a nice weekend.
Yes.
And last week हम लोग अध्याय 30th पढ़ रहे थे, Canto 4, yeah, and we actually completed that chapter 30th, yeah, and as we read in last chapter, you know what is mentioned here is his previous body had been destroyed, but he, the same Daksha, inspired by the supreme will, created all the desired living entities in the Chakshush Manavantara, yeah. So what we are reading was Prachetas, right, got married to daughter of Kundu Muni and Premlocha Apsara, yeah, and then they had a son, Daksh, Raja Daksh, right? So if you remember Raja Daksh during Shambhu Manu's time, right, we know the whole story about the fights between like Raja Daksh and Lord Shiva, and then the whole episode of what happened. But the same King Daksh, it's mentioned that he did tapasya for those 4 Manu Antars, and then in Chakshush Manu Antar, which is like the 6th Manu's avatar, right? Like 6th Manu, King Daksh appeared to Prachetas. He got birth again to Prachetas. And basically, the reason I wanted to revise this was also like, whatever we were looking for in terms of the quantification of everything, like how many Manus are there in one day of Lord Brahma? Yeah, just to revise so that we know those facts. So do you remember how many Manus appear in one day of Brahma? 14 Manus, yeah, that's right, Ajay. Yeah, 1-4, right? 14 Manus appear in one day of Brahma, and those 14 Manus names are given here. So that's why we wanted to recollect, right? Like we have Shambhu Manu is the first Manu in this particular day of Brahma. And how long is one day of Lord Brahma? One day of Lord Brahma.
400 billion years.
Right, 4,032,000,000 years.
32 million. Okay.
One day of Lord Brahma is 4,032,000,000 years. In that one day of Brahma, Lord Brahma, there are 14 Manus who appear. Yeah. And each Manu's duration is, now how long is each Manu's duration? Is 71 cycles of the 4 yugas. Yeah. 71 cycles of 4 yugas, which comes to around 4,320,000 years. So each Manu's duration is 4,320,000 years. Yeah. And why is that? Because of 71 cycles of all 4 yugas, which is called a yug. So one yug, which is 4 yugas, Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug, and Kali Yug. The whole total yuga is 4,032,000 years, one yuga. Okay, and similarly, there are 71 yugas in one Manu, and then like this, there are 14 Manus. Yeah, and so that's, but the important thing is we are now in 7th Manu's descendants in hierarchy. Yeah, this appearance is 7th Manu. Vevasvat Manu is our current Manu. Yeah, and then in future, another 4,032,000,000, because the total duration is day and night. Well, this is just the day, of course. So 4,032,000,000, same day, half of Manus have appeared, right? Out of 14, 7th has appeared. And so it's around 2. If you divide 4,032,000,000 by 2, it's around 2,016,000,000 years. In future has been already forecasted. The name of the Manus. Yeah. So Swarni, Daksha Swarni, Brahma Swarni, Dharma Swarni, Rudra Swarni, Dev Swarni, and Indra Swarni. Those are the Manus who are going to appear next. All right. So I think I just wanted to revise some of the quantifications so that we know, like all these facts are also kind of mentioned. And we completed chapter 30th. And now we are going to do the last chapter of this canto, which is Narad Muni instructs the Prachetas. Yeah. So what happens next is, let's read that. Virendraji?
Yes. Maitreya uvacha tata utpanna vijnana ashvadokshaja bhashitam smaranta atmaje bharyam visrujya praprajana gruhat. Translation. The great Saint Maitreya continued, after that the Prachetas lived at home for thousands of years and developed perfect knowledge in spiritual consciousness. At last they remembered the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and left home, putting their wife in charge of a perfect son.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So what happened was, so Prachetas, as we know, Lord Vishnu, Lord Purushottam gave darshan to Prachetas. After Prachetas did tapasya for 10,000 years under the sea water, right, doing Purushottam Stuti given to them by Lord Shiva. And then Lord Vishnu appeared and Lord Vishnu gave them the benediction that you will live for whatever number of years and a nice life, and then you will come back to Godhead. Yeah. So they remembered that, those blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then they left home. Yeah. And who is speaking? Maitreya Vach. Maitreya is talking to whom is Maitreya Muni is talking to? Maitreya Muni is reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, right? To whom? Remember who is asking all these questions about the descendants of Maharaj Dhruv and Shambhu Manu is Mahatma Vidur, right? So Maitreya Muni is answering to Mahatma Vidur. He is explaining him all the story of the descendants of the Dhruv Maharaj, right? And then Prachetas left the son in charge of a perfect son. And who is the son of Prachetas? We just read in the last show. Son of Prachetas? King Daksh, right?
King Daksh.
Daksh again took a birth in this Chakshush Manu's age. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So Prachetas live home. And then they meet Narad Muni. So let's read that. Tarun.
Dikshita Brahma Satrena Sarvabhutatma Medhasa Prachityanya Dishi Velayam Siddhyodhabhutrastra Jajalihi. The Prachetas went to the seashore in the west where the great liberated sage Jajali was residing. After perfecting the spiritual knowledge by which one becomes equal towards all living entities. The Prachetas became perfect in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So Prachetas leave home, they meet Rishi Jajali. Yeah. And then, of course, once you acquire the spiritual knowledge, Sarva Bhutatma Megasa. Yeah. One becomes equal towards all living entities. And you know what it says? A learned person sees everyone equally on a spiritual basis. And a learned person, a devotee, wants to see everyone developed in Krishna consciousness. The place where the Prachetas were residing was perfect for executing spiritual activities. For it is indicated that the great sage Jajali attained mukti, liberation there. One desiring perfection or liberation should associate with a person who is already liberated. This is called sadhu sang, associating with a perfect devotee. Yeah. So this is how Prachetas give example of how do we associate with a perfect devotee. Yeah. Ajay.
Sure. Tanya jit pran mano vachu disha jitasanan shant saman vigrahan pare amale brahmani yoditatmanah sura suryodaya dadeshe sma narada. Translation. After practicing the yogasan for mystic yoga, the Prachetas managed to control their life, air, mind, words, and external vision. Thus, by pranayam process, they were completely relieved of material attachments. By remaining perpendicular, they could concentrate their minds on uppermost Brahman. While they were practicing this pranayam, the great sage Narad, who is worshipped both by demons and by demigods, came to see them. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Prachetas, like say, Prana Mano Vacho Drisho. Yeah. Jita Sanan, Shant Saman Vigrahan. What he's saying is that by doing the pranayam, right, managed to control their life, air, mind, words, and external vision. Yeah, and they got rid of material attachment. And they could focus on Brahmani Yojita Atmanah. And when they were doing all this, the great sage Narad appeared. And in fact, it's also being mentioned that great sage Narad is worshipped by both demons and the demigods. Yeah, everybody respects Rishi Narad, whether he is demon or a demigod, is what is being mentioned. Yeah, so Rishi Narad appeared, yeah, to Prachetas. Next, hello, Hare Krishna Sachin.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Samagatam ta utthayo pranipatya vinandya cha pujayitva yathadesham sukhasina matha bruvan. As soon as the Prachetas saw that the great sage Narad had appeared, they immediately got up, even from their asanas. As required, they immediately offered obeisances and worshipped him. And when they saw that Narad Muni was properly seated, they began to ask him questions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Narad Muni appears, and then Prachetas start asking questions to Narad Muni. Yeah. Prachetas uchache swagatam te surshe adhya dishtayano darshanam gata tau chankramanam brahman bhayaya yatharave. All the Prachetas began to address the great sage Narad. O great sage, O Brahman, we hope you met with no disturbances while coming here. It is due to our great fortune that we are now able to see you. By the traveling of the sun, people are relieved from the fear of the darkness of night, a fear brought about by thieves and robbers. Similarly, your traveling is like the sun's, for you drive away all kinds of fear. Yeah, so as Narad Muni appears, drives away all kinds of fear, is what Prachetas are saying. Says that just as the sun disperses darkness, The appearance of a great sage like Narada disperses ignorance. When one meets Narad or his representative, a spiritual master, one is freed from all anxiety brought about by ignorance. Right? Read this, Virendra. Virendra sir.
Yes. यदादिष्टं भगवता शिवेनाधोक्षजेन च तद्गृहेषु प्रसक्तानां प्रायशः क्षपितं प्रभो. O Master, may we inform you that because of our being overly attached to the family affairs, we almost forgot the instructions we received from Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what Prachetas are telling Narad Muni is that, of course, they received these instructions from Lord Shiva, as we know. Also, Lord Vishnu gave them transcendental knowledge, right, when Lord Vishnu appeared. And what they are saying is because for thousands of years they've been attached to the family affairs, they almost forgot those instructions, is what they are telling to Narad Muni. Yeah, let's read this, Tarun. Tarun?
Remaining in family life is kind of concession for sense enjoyment. One should know that sense enjoyment is not required, but one has to accept sense enjoyment in as much as one has to live. As confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.10, Kamasya Nendriya Pritihi. One has to become a Goswami and control his senses. One should not simply use his senses for sense gratification. Rather, the senses should be employed just as much as required for maintaining body and soul together. Srila Rupa Goswami recommends Ananta Sakteya Visyan Yatram Yatra Harham Upayayunjataha. One should not be attached to sense objects, but should accept sense enjoyment as much as required, and no more. If one wishes to enjoy the senses more than required, he becomes attached to family life, which means bondage. All the Prachetas admitted their fault in remaining in household life. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
प्रद्युतयाध्यात्मज्ञानं तत्त्वार्थदर्शनं येन जसा तरिष्यामो दुस्तरं भवसागरम्. Dear Master, kindly enlighten us in transcendental knowledge, which may act as a torchlight by which we may cross the dark nescence of material existence. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So who is speaking right now?
I think Prachetas.
Prachetas, right? And Prachetas are speaking to
Narad Muni.
Narad Muni. Yeah. So Narad Muni appeared to Prachetas, and Prachetas are then asking Narad Muni that kindly Pradhyut Adhyatma Jnanam, yeah, enlighten us in transcendental knowledge. Why? So that Dustaram Bhavasagaram, yeah, they can cross the dark signs of material existence. Yeah. Sachin?
मैत्रेय उवाच इति प्रचेतसां पृष्टो भगवान् नारदो मुनिः भगवत्युत्तमश्लोकः आविष्टात्मा ब्रवीन्द्रुपान्. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidur, being thus petitioned by the Prachetas, the supreme devotee Narad, who is always absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, began to reply. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, see, Maitreya Muni is telling to Mahatma Vidur that Narad Muni then started replying to Prachetas. Yeah. Virendra sir?
Yes. Narada Uvacha तज्जन्मतानि कर्माणि तदा युस्तन्मनो वचः नृणां येन हि विश्वात्मा सेव्यते हरिरीश्वरः. Translation: The great sage Narada said, when a living entity is born to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Controller, his birth, his fruitive activities, his lifespan, his mind, and his words are all factually perfect.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So what Narad Muni is saying is that of a human being, when everything is perfect, yeah, if he is born to engage in the devotional service, is what is being mentioned, right? Like it says, want to read, Ajay?
In this verse, the word Nirnam is very important. There are many other births besides human birth, but Narad Muni is herein especially speaking of human birth. Among human beings, there are different types of men. Of these, those who are advanced in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness are called Aryans. Among Aryans, one who engages in the devotional service of the Lord is the most successful in life. The word Nirnam indicates that lower animals are not expected to engage in the devotional service of the Lord, but in the perfect human society, everyone should engage in the devotional service of the Lord. It does not matter whether one is born poor or rich, black or white. There may also be so many material distinctions for one who takes birth in human society, but everyone should engage in the Lord's devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. The point is, the human life's objective is to engage in devotional service. Yeah. So that he can get out of this clutches of birth and death. Yeah. Sachin?
किम जन्म भीस्त्री भीर्वेह शौक्र सावित्र याज्ञी कैह कर्म भीर्वा त्रयी प्रोक्तैः पुंसोऽपि विबुधा युषा. A civilized human being has three kinds of births. The first birth is by pure father and mother, and this birth is called birth by semen. The next birth takes place when one is initiated by the spiritual master, and this birth is called Savitra. The third birth, called Yagnika, takes place when one is given the opportunity to worship Lord Vishnu. Despite the opportunities for attaining such births, even if one gets the lifespan of a demigod, if one does not actually engage in the service of the Lord, everything is useless. Similarly, one's activities may be mundane or spiritual, but they are useless if they are not meant for satisfying the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So what is being mentioned is a man, first of all, has three births in the cycle, right? One is when he is born, right, on this earth. That is called Shokra. Second is when he gets like a Diksha kind of thing or gets from a guru. Yeah. Or, they call it like also the Janeu ceremony and those things take place. That's also kind of called as a second birth of a person. So that's called as a Savitra. And the third is when he becomes eligible to go in the deity's room and perform the puja and all that, because he has already not perfected, but he is already engaged in so much of devotional service. And that is called Yajnike. Yeah, so Shokra, Savitra, and Yajnike. But what is being mentioned is that irrespective of all this, if one's activities may be mundane or spiritual, but if they are not meant for satisfying the Lord, then it's useless, is what is being mentioned. Yeah, and actually very nice purport. Let's read this actually. Tarun.
In our Krishna consciousness movement, we therefore offer the student his first initiation and allow him to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. By chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly and following the regulative principles, one becomes qualified to be initiated as a Brahmana. Because unless one is a qualified Brahmana, he cannot be allowed to worship Lord Vishnu. This is called Yagnika Janma. In our Krishna consciousness society, unless one is twice initiated, first by chanting Hare Krishna and second by the Gayatri mantra, is not allowed to enter the kitchen or deity room to execute duties. However, when one is elevated to the platform on which he can worship the deity, his previous birth does not matter. Kandalo pi dvicha shresto Hari Bhakti Parayanaha Hari Bhakti Vihinas Cha Dvijo Pi Swapakadhamaha. Even if one is born in the family of Chandala, if one engages in the devotional service of the Lord, he becomes the best of Brahmanas. But even a Brahmana who is devoid of devotional service is on the level of the lowest dog eater. If a person is advanced in devotional service, it does not matter whether he was born in a Chandala family, he becomes purified. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So I think the important fact which is mentioned here is who is a real Brahman, right? Not because somebody is born in the Brahman family or or the rich family or whatever, right? What is mentioned is anyone who is doing a devotional service, irrespective of what he is, black, white, whatever, wherever he is born, he can become purified. Yeah, and he can become the best of the Brahman, depending on the devotional service. And that's why, if you see in the ISKCON temples, like you will see, not everyone can go and do the prayers, right? I mean, not the prayer, but the arti, like in the deity's room. Not everyone can go in the deity's room, right? So people who have advanced to the next level and they measure it, right? Like people who have been doing 16 rounds of chantings every day for whatever number of years and have advanced into different stages of life and different stages of devotional life are then allowed to do the puja and all that in the deities, right? So I think that's pretty very important to understand, right? And then when somebody is doing that, he is a Brahman, because a Brahman is doing Brahman is worshipping the Lord Vishnu, right? So that is the best of Brahmans, not because somebody is born in the Brahman family, but because somebody is advanced in the devotional service. That is what is being mentioned here, right? Yeah. And it says here that a living a living entity is the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. And unless he comes to the platform of devotional service, his lifespan, good birth, glorious activities, and everything else are null and void. Yeah, the life is wasted. Whether somebody has become the king or the president or the richest man in the world or whatever, if he hasn't come to the platform of devotional service, the lifespan is kind of wasted because the good karmas are exhausted, right? And the cycle restarts. So that's what is being mentioned here. Yeah. Hare Krishna Rasiksham Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Okay.
Ruteena tapasavam kim vachobhischa vrittivihi buddhaya va kim punya balendriya radhasa. Without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerities? The process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So who is speaking right now? Who is speaking this to Prachetas?
Narad Muni.
Narad Muni, right? So Narad Muni appeared where Prachetas, were engaged in devotional service in Jajali's Muni's ashram, right? And then Narad Muni is giving this transcendental knowledge to Prachetas, and he's saying that if there is no devotional service, then it doesn't matter how much austerities one go through. Yeah? Whatever they do, if somebody has mental speculation power, somebody may be extra smart or intelligent, as we see, some may be very having strong strength, right? Maybe huge power of the senses, but all these things are useless if there is no devotional service, is what Narad Muni is saying. Yeah? Prachetas. And then again, nice purport here. Virendra sir?
Yes. As far as our senses are concerned, there are many animals, both beasts and birds, who are very expert in exercising their senses more keenly than human beings. For example, vultures and hawks can go very high in the sky but can see a small body on the ground very clearly. This means that their eyesight is so keen that they can find an eatable corpse um, from a great distance. Certainly, their eyesight is much more keener than human beings, but this does not mean that their existence is more important than that of a human being. Similarly, dogs can smell many things from a far distance. Many fish can understand by the power of sound that an enemy is coming. All these examples are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. If one's senses cannot help him attain the highest perfection of life, realization of the Supreme, they are all useless. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Virendra. So basically what is being mentioned is somebody can have great senses in some respect, but the ultimate objective of human life, right? The highest perfection of human life is to get engaged in devotional service. Yeah, is what is mentioned here. Arun?
Kim va yogena sankhena nyasa swadhyaya yorapi kim va shreyo bhiranyashatra na yatranamam prado hariha.
Hare.
Transcendental practices that do not ultimately help one realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead are useless. Be they mystic yoga practices, the analytical study of matter, severe austerity, the acceptance of sannyasa, or the study of Vedic literature. All these may be very important aspects of spiritual advancement, but unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, all these processes are useless. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Narad Muni is saying this to Prachetas that unless somebody realizes Hari's devotional service, they can do whatever they want. They can be extra smart, they can do extra meditation, be very powerful yoga master. All these are useless if they don't understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. Yeah, is what Narad Muni is telling to Prachetas. Sachin?
श्रेयसामपि सर्वेशात्मात्मा विवर्धिरर्थतः सर्वेषामपि भूतानां हरिरात्मा मदः प्रियः. Factually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all self-realization. Consequently, the goal of all auspicious activities, karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So whatever the way meaning is, whatever the activity is, the ultimate goal is bhakti and to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. So nice purpose. So let's read this. One
second. The living entity is marginal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the material world is the external energy. Under the circumstances, one must understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is factually the original source of both matter and spirit. This is explained in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Bhumir apo nalo vayuhu kham mano buddhir evacha Ahankara ityam me bhinna prakritir astadha. Aprayam itasti tav anyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabhaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separate material energies. But besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind which consists of all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So in Bhagavad Gita, what was mentioned? Like, what is the gross body made up of?
5 elements.
Yeah, those 5 elements. Yeah, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So that is the sharir, which is the sthul sharir, gross body. Then we have suksham sharir, right? Which is the shuttle body, is what we call it. Is made up of mind, intelligence, and false ego, the self ego, man, buddhi, and ahankar. But all those things, like the gross body and the shuttle body, sthul sharir and suksham sharir, are together comprise the material energy. Yeah. But under that, and this is the inferior nature, but under there is a superior energy of the Lord Krishna, and that consists of all living entities, right? The soul. Yeah, the soul and the super soul are part and parcels of Lord Krishna, which is the superior energy and not the material energy. Yeah, not related to material energy. Yeah, makes sense? Let's continue reading this, Sachin.
The entire cosmic manifestation is but a combination of matter and spirit. The spiritual part is the living entity, and these living entities are described as Prakriti or energy. The living entity is never described as Purusha, the Supreme Person. Therefore, to identify the living entity with the Supreme Lord is simply ignorance. The living entity is the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, although there is actually no difference between the energy and the energetic. The duty of the living entity is to understand his real identity. When he does, Krishna gives him all the facilities to come to the platform of devotional service. That is the perfection of life. This is indicated in the Vedic Upanishad. Yama evasya runute tena labhyas tasyasha atma vivarnute tanum swam. Lord Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mama upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. The conclusion is that one must come to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, even though one may begin with Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. Unless one comes to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, self-realization or realization of the absolute truth cannot be achieved. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Shiksha Prabhuji.
बहुत स्पेशल श्लोक आया मेरे लिए। यथा तरोर्मूल निषेचनेन रिप्यन्ति ततस्कन्धभुजोपशाखाः प्राणोपहरा च यथेन्द्रियाणां तथैव सर्वः मुच्यते तेजया। As powering water on the root of the tree, energy energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything else. And as per supplying food to the stomach, enlivens the sense and limbs of the body. Simply worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, though devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods who are parts of the Supreme Personality. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what Narad Muni is saying, as we know, if you pour water on the root of a tree, yeah, it will energize the whole tree, right? Including trunk and branches and everything. Similarly, once we put the food in the stomach, yeah, it will supply to, right? Whatever contains vitamins, proteins, fat, everything, it will supply to the whole body, right? Similarly, it's saying that if one worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, through devotional service, if we do that, it will automatically satisfy all the devatas and everyone else, is what is being mentioned by Narad Muni. Yeah. And let's just do one more slok. Virendra sir?
Yes. यथैव सूर्यात् प्रभवन्ति वारः पुनश्च तस्मिन् प्रविशन्ति काले भूतानि भूमौ स्थिरजन्मानि तथा हरावेव कृण प्रवाहः. Translation: During the rainy season, water is generated from the sun, and in due course of time, during the summer season, the very same water is again absorbed by the sun. Similarly, all living entities, moving and inert, are generated from the earth, and again, after some time, they all return to the earth as dust. Similarly, everything emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in due course of time, everything enters into him again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Tatha haraveva gun pravaha. Yeah. Everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and then again enters into him again. Yeah. All the souls. So I think we are going to pause here. Again, we'll continue reading Narad Muni instructions. Yeah. This is what Narad Muni is explaining to Prachetas. And, last chapter of Canto 4, all about Bhakti Yoga. So, yeah, I know. So 4.31.19 is your favorite, Virendra Prabhu? Huh?
Yes. This is like one of the most important, I think, week, I would say, what you are doing. This is really amazing. It's really giving the gist of everything here.
Right.
So really, Hare Krishna and everything to you, Gajendra Prabhu, for taking this.
Yeah. No, this is great. I mean, look, this is possible when everybody's together. So,
so tomorrow is going to be like really exciting. I hope I can join. I have a program, but yeah, we'll see. Like this is tomorrow, like, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Yeah.
It's really nice because Narad Muni is again like giving this whole knowledge, right? I mean,
Right.
Narad Muni is the Dev Rishi and he's telling all this, right?
Yes.
So, which is really interesting. So now, since it's all about the bhakti, let's hear some bhajan. And it's about 5 minutes kirtan, yeah. And then we'll see you tomorrow. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
अरे मेरा इधर से कहाँ हो गया?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
आपने ड्रम में पानी खोला है क्या?
Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
All right. Again, nice kirtan. Everyone, have a good night. And then
Good
we'll
night.
see you again at 10 p.m. PST, 7:30 India time.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.